All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, we got more Riftbound cards to go over. That's right. At the time of me recording this video, I have gone over all of the Origin set cards. I have those put into a playlist and everything for you to check out. If you've not already checked that out, I'll have that linked in the comment section below. But in today's video, we have to go over the Origins Proving Grounds cards, which, if I'm not mistaken, is some type of 4-player starter kit that's going to be coming out when the game comes out. And again, it's called the Origins Proving Grounds set, which is a little bit confusing because Origins is the name of the the first set coming out for Riftbound, but this is kind of like a add-on to that. This is the Origins Proving Ground set, okay, like a miniature expansion. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into this, guys. I will have everything time-stamped in the general description, and I'll have all relevant links and stuff like that in the comment section below. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do not hesitate to put those down in the comment section below, or hop on the VV Theory Discord. Link will be in the channel description. Okay, now, to start this video off, guys, we're actually going to scroll down to the bottom of this. It looks like we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 cards to go over, and we're actually going to start off with the legends and their signature abilities here, or their signature units or whatever, and we're going to go from there, okay? So we're just going to go left to right here. First up is Annie. This is the Dark Child. And notice it says starter on... Do all of these say starter? Yes. Okay, so these all say starter on them. So, guys, if anyone knows in the comment section below, will these cards be legal in Standard? I would imagine they will be, right? Even though it says starter deck on here, or starter as part of the type here. If anyone knows, please say something in the comment section below. Okay, but first up we have Dark Child Annie here, which is a red-purple domain, and it has, at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes. Okay, red and purple are probably going to be like the burn colors in this game, but then again, red-blue is also a very strong, like, spell slinger type of combination, like what we've seen with Kaisa, right? But red-purple does seem like it's going to be pretty good for that domain combination, and, you know, it's going to have a lot of, I think, a lot of cycling. But notice this, at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes. So we'll have to see what's in this starter deck here that will go well with Annie. That's going to be able to cash in on that value there. Because being able to tap out for the entire turn and play things out super aggressively and then have 2 runes ready for your opponent's turn, that actually seems like it could be pretty decent. Again, it will really depend on what kind of support we see with this legend. Okay, next up we have Tibbers. This is an 8-cost, 7-might signature unit, okay? Excuse me, guys. So a signature unit. I don't think we've seen that yet. I know we've seen a lot of signature spells so far, but I don't know if we've seen any signature units. And oh man, that's got me thinking, okay, I don't know how many people out there listening actually play League of Legends. I really hope when they get around to making a Yorick legend, I hope they make the Maiden. I think that's the name of it, right? The Maiden. I hope they give Yorick a signature unit Maiden. How incredible would that be? Okay, anyway, sorry guys, back to Annie. So this is an 8-cost, 7-might unit, okay? And you do have to recycle 2 red or purple runes in order to play this unit out. And it has, when you play me, deal 3 damage to all units at battlefields. Okay. Okay, so here we go. When you play me, deal 3 to all units at battlefields. That seems like it could be very, very powerful against the decks that like to go wide and put a lot of tokens on the board. This is just going to be a miniature board wipe, and you're developing a 7-might unit. And notice this. Okay, yeah, it says when you play me, deal 3 to all units at battlefields, even your own, right? So you have to be careful with that when you go to build the deck. But either way, this card seems like it's going to be a very powerful signature spell, or excuse me, signature unit, and you'll be able to have 3 of these in your deck if you're running Annie. That could be really, really awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have Master Yi. This is Wuju Bladesman Master Yi using the green and orange domains, and the effect is while a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. Okay, so that's meant to be more defensive, right? When a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. That's interesting. So if I'm understanding this correctly, I guess this is probably meant to be more of a legend built around putting a single unit at a base or excuse me, not at a base, at a battlefield, and then just using that unit to defend there, and then buffing it up. And we've already seen what's in green and orange, right? We've seen a lot of ways to buff characters with green, and we've seen a lot of ways to ramp with orange. So maybe the idea is you're just going to, you know, ramp channeling as many runes as fast as possible. And I think even green has, what's it called? Find Your Center, I think it's called, which also has ways to help you ramp your runes and go really quickly. So you're probably going to be meant to play out these really big units as fast as possible, and then have them defend at a place alone, and then buffing it with your Legends effect, and even things like Unguard. So that's kind of interesting, though. That seems pretty cool. Okay, all right, next up we have Master Yi's signature spell, Highlander, which is a 4-cost spell with reaction time that says, choose a friendly unit. The next time it dies this turn, recall it exhausted instead. Okay, so that is a pretty steep cost for this spell. Now notice it has no recycle cost, so that does help a little bit maybe. But then again, as a way to balance this spell, maybe they should have made it like a recycle 2 cost or something like that, and made it only cost 2 energy, right? So in other words, make it cost 2 energy and then, you know, recycle 2 runes, or make it a 2 power cost. Then I think this would have been a little bit more usable, but who knows, maybe it would have been broken at that point. I have no idea. I've not tested this card out or anything like that. But the effect is basically like a Zhonya's Hourglass. And for a 4 cost, that is quite a bit. Now, it does have utility. You can use this offensively or defensively, it looks like, because it is a 4-cost reaction, and it just says choose a friendly unit. It doesn't say like how the legend Master Yi says this one has while a friendly unit defends alone. So notice this doesn't say like choose a defending unit, right? Choose a friendly defending unit or an attacking unit. It's just choose a friendly unit. So it does have utility like that, but it's a pretty steep cost, I have to say. But who knows? Maybe 1 or 2 of these in the deck could come in clutch at the right times. Okay, next up we have Lux, Lady of Luminosity. Okay, this is using the blue and yellow combination, and it has, when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, draw 1. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm not sure how I feel about that effect this early on in the game, because I don't know how many spells that Lux can even run that are going to cost 5 or more, right? I'm sure there's something. I'm trying to think, guys. I'm sure there's going to be something. But whatever the case is, I feel like this legend will probably scale very well into later sets that come out. As more and more spells come out for blue and yellow, yeah, I mean, I think this legend could scale pretty well, because you'll probably want to build this entire deck around just having 5 cost and higher spells that remove your opponent's characters, right? Or excuse me, your opponent's units. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to remove your unit, and then I'm going to get to the late game, and I'm drawing cards all along the way, right? You know, your opponent's probably playing out these units, and then you're just popping the unit with a 5 cost or higher spell. That card's gone. They went -1 from that effect, right? They lost a card, okay? Whereas you got rid of their card, but you drew a new card. So you basically, you know, broke even with that. So I think this effect has a lot of potential. We'll have to see what happens over time. And again, this is the kind of effect, though, early on. I don't know if there's going to be enough support to really make this pop off, but who knows? We'll have to see what happens. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we have Final Spark. This is Lux's signature spell. It is an 8-cost spell, action speed, so you can play on your turn or in showdowns, and it has deal 8 damage to a unit. Deal 8 to a unit. Okay, very cool. So this is just a nuke. I feel like it's a little overcosted, but at the same time, there is no power cost to this. There's just a energy cost of 8, right? You don't have to recycle any runes. So maybe that's why it costs so much, because if I'm not mistaken, guys, we are going to scroll down just a little bit. Hopefully all this stuff is loaded in by now. And this is a blue-yellow legend, right? So we're going to go down to the blue cards, and I feel like blue already actually has some pretty decent cards that cost less. That cost less, excuse me, than what we just saw there. There's one card in particular. Here it is. Okay, so this is a deal 6 to each of up to 2 units, and it costs 6. So it costs 2 less, and yes, you do have to recycle 2 mind runes to use this. However, you're dealing 6 to 2 units. So I will say this card will probably be a staple in Lux. We'll have to see, you know, who knows what comes in the actual Origin Proving Ground set. but that feels like it will just be a strictly better card than this. But who knows? That's another thing to consider. I think I've heard other YouTubers talk about how the Proving Grounds set is meant to be a little bit more toned down than the actual, the actual Origin set. So we'll have to see what happens. Either way, you're paying 8 to deal 8 damage to a unit. You could be knocking out a really, really big unit with this effect here, excuse me, with this spell. Could be pretty decent. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh, one more thing I want to mention is, remember, when you're playing this in Lux, you're dealing 8 to a unit, probably getting rid of it, and then you're also drawing a card in the process. So yes, it does cost a lot, but it does actually get you a card out of that deal. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Garen. This is the Might of Demacia, and this is an orange and yellow combination with, when you conquer, if you have 4+ units at that battlefield, draw 2. Okay, when you conquer, if you have 4 or more units at that battlefield, draw 2. Okay, so maybe this is meant to be a deck that goes super wide on the board, and then you just smash in with a bunch of, like, maybe smaller units into one battlefield, and if you actually conquer with still having 4 or more units there, you're going to get to draw 2 cards. That's interesting. So as a deck builder, I'm wondering how I can abuse this, right? That's the first thing going through my head is, okay, how can we abuse this? How can we just dump as many characters, or excuse me, units onto the board as possible, and then just smash everything into a battlefield? Whether my opponent's there or not, it doesn't matter. As long as I conquer, if I have 4 or more units there, I can draw 2 cards. Because drawing 2 cards is wild, right? And notice what it says. I mean, this is unlikely that it can happen, but it has, when you conquer, if you have 4 or more units at that battlefield, draw 2. That's not a once per turn effect, if I'm understanding that correctly, right? That's not a once per turn ability. So if you somehow have, like, let's just say you have 8 units, right? And you could smash into both battlefields, you could potentially draw 4 cards, right? I don't know. Help me out, guys, if I'm not understanding that correctly, but I know it seems unlikely to have that kind of scenario pop up, but who knows? With an effect like this, maybe you actually build your entire deck around not even really attacking until your opponent's at, like, maybe 6 victory points, and then you go from there. We'll have to see what happens. Either way, I don't want to completely write this leader off, because otherwise this effect doesn't really help us conquer battlefields. It doesn't help us really do too much. It just kind of rewards us if we can conquer a battlefield with a certain amount of units at that battlefield. So pretty cool stuff here. And I have seen some people's, like, rankings and stuff like that. I think I'm going to make a tier list pretty soon. And I think people have this legend rated pretty low. And I understand the idea there, but who knows? Maybe we just haven't found the right way to build it yet. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have Decisive Strike. This is a 5-cost signature spell for Garen that is action speed, and you can give friendly units +2 might this turn. Okay, so this is kind of, it seems like a much weaker version of Siphon Power that Victor has, but at the same time, it's in that same idea, right? It's in the same ballpark of power where you're basically paying 5 in this case, and you're buffing all your friendly units by +2 for the turn. So I guess, again, if I'm trying to make this legend work out in my mind as a deck builder, I guess what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to just amass an army at my base, right? I mean, literally just play as many units as I can that flood the board. Do not attack. Do not attack unless it's with something maybe like, I think there was a card called Evangel that had a Death Knell that could make 3 tokens back at your base. That might be very strong. But otherwise, just build up an entire army back at your base. And then when you're ready to strike, you play out decisive. You play out your Decisive Strike here, and you go into both battlefields eventually, and all your friendly units are going to be +2 might for the turn. That could be kind of cool. Who knows how good it is in practice, but I see what they're going for there. It just seems like this is a very costly card, because if I'm not mistaken, there's some type of stratagem card in the game where it's like, it basically buffs your entire board by +5 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's some type of yellow card, a strategy card, that buffs your board by 5 instead of just 2, and that seems like it's just strictly better. But again, we'll have to see what happens there. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to go back all the way to the very top now, guys. We're going to start off with this Annie. Now that we've gone over what all the legends do, that should put things into perspective for us. Okay, so next up, I should say, we have Annie Fiery. This is a champion unit for Annie, of course, and it has It's a 5-cost, 4 might unit with your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage. Okay, so I guess if we have enough ways to, you know, throw out some spell damage, we can really cash in, get some extra value from this effect. But otherwise, this is just a 5-cost 4-might unit. It's pretty understated from what we've seen so far. But it does have a lot of potential upside if we can build our deck around enough, you know, spells. That's pretty much all I have to say about this one, right? This is one of those units where it's like, hey, 5 costs for 4 might, and we have to recycle a Fury rune. Not exactly great. It does, you know, it comes into play rested. It doesn't have Accelerate or anything like that. It's not doing a whole lot. However, maybe there's some kind of way where we can play this out on 5, right? On 5 runes. And then at the end of our turn, we're going to be able to set 2 runes as active with our legend effect, Annie's effect, and then start slinging spells on our opponent's turn. And they're going to be buffed by this card. So we'll have to see what happens there. It does have some potential. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have a 6-cost spell, Firestorm. Deal 3 damage to all enemy units at a battlefield. Wow. Okay, now this is really not that bad. This actually seems pretty good. It costs 6 and you have to recycle 1 Fury rune, but it deals 3 to all enemy units at a battlefield. And if we can play this Annie out first, like say we play this out on 5, so we'll go down to 4 runes after that, right? Because we have to recycle a Fury rune. Next turn we'll be up to 6, and we'll be able to use Firestorm right away to just clear out a lot of battlefields in this case, right? Now, what I mean by that is this. It only deals 3 damage to all enemy units at a battlefield, but I'm saying most battlefields this early in the game, because this would be turn 3. Right, this would be turn 3 going second if we played out the Annie first on curve, so on 5, and then we go down to 4. Next turn we go back up to 6, and then think about it. So your opponent will only have had 5 resources to use on the previous turn, right? Or excuse me, did I do that right? So they'd go 2, 4, I think they'd be on 6, excuse me. They would probably be somewhere around 6. And at that point in the game, for all their units at battlefields, they're probably going to be kind of tiny. And this Firestorm might be able to just clean up a battlefield. So this doesn't seem too terrible. And if you did get Annie down, this 5 cost, if you got this down first, well, now you're dealing 4 to all enemy units at a battlefield. That could be kind of decent. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, next up we have Incinerate. Here we go. I was going to say they better make a spell that costs exactly 2 for your Legend's effect, right? Because it stands 2 runes at the end of your turn. So here we go. Here's Incinerate. This is a 2 cost, and I was going to say it better have action so we can actually play it on our opponent's turn. Okay, so pay 2, and its action speed, deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield. Okay, that's not incredible. It's not insane, but it's also not terrible. And if you do have the Annie down that we already looked at, the 5-cost champion unit Annie, you'll be able to deal 3 to a unit at a battlefield. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have Master Yi Meditative. This is a 5-cost 4-might champion unit with, while you have 8 or more runes, I have +4 might. Okay, well now that's pretty strong. So I think so far from what all we've seen, we're not done yet. We still have plenty of cards to go over, but this might be the most powerful card I've seen so far out of everything else we've seen. This seems like it could have some potential. Where especially, remember guys, this is probably intended for the orange and green Master Yi we just looked at, and this is Wuju Bladesman. Yeah, green and orange, right? So in a deck like that, you're probably going to be ramping your runes or channeling them as quick as you can. Like in a deck like this, maybe you'll want to run, Find Your Center, Catalyst of Eons, and Mobilize, I think it's called, and just do whatever you can to just ramp to as high a runes as you can. And now all of a sudden you're slamming down a 5-cost 8-might unit, and you're only recycling a single green rune to do so. Yeah, this is not bad. This card seems pretty strong, actually. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, next up we have Zephyr Sage. This is a 6-cost 6-might unit, Ionia Bird unit, with shield. Okay, so +1 might while I'm a defender. Okay, very nice. So you're paying 6, you're getting 6 mites worth, and you're getting shield basically just for having to recycle a single green rune, right? So that's not too bad. Paying 6 for a 6 might with shield and recycling a green rune, that's really not too bad at all. Okay, not much else to talk about there though. Let's keep going. Okay, next up we have Lux Illuminated. This is a 6-cost 5 might champion unit, Lux Demacia champion unit. With when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, give me +3 might this turn. Okay, now that's pretty cool. Now this goes perfectly with our our Legends effect, right? So when we pay, if we have this Lux on the board, let's just say they're at our base, right? And from the turn before, so they're active and they're ready to attack, right? They're standing, they're ready to go. What we can do to start the turn off is play out a really powerful 5-cost spell, maybe taking out one of our opponent's units, and then we draw a card from our Legends effect, and then this is an 8 might unit for the turn. Now, that's not bad. That's actually not bad, guys. I like that quite a bit. This card probably has some potential, I have to say. And that makes me also wonder, notice this is not a once per turn effect. Whenever you play a spell that costs 5 or more, give me +3 might this turn. Let me see something real quick with the Legend. Okay, this is also not a once per turn effect, guys. You don't have to tap down the Legend to do this effect. So there might be a turn where you decide, okay, I just need to sling some spells here and draw some cards up in hand and deal with the board. And this Legend might be able to draw you quite a few cards for the turn while dealing with a lot of your opponent's board. Really cool stuff there. If I'm not understanding that correctly, guys, please help me out in the comment section below. Okay, but we have Lux Illuminated here, 6 costs for 5 might. That's slightly understated. However, in the kind of deck you'd be running this in, you're going to be destroying your opponent's characters with these really powerful spells, and that's going to also buff your Lux along the way. So really cool stuff here. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, next up we have Garen, Rugged Garen, which is a 6-cost 5 might champion unit with Assault 2 and Shield 2. So this unit gets +2 might while I'm attacking or defending. Okay, now we're talking. Now, this seems pretty powerful, guys. You're basically paying 6 for a 7 might unit. This seems very strong, because when you attack in, you get the Assault 2, and when you're defending, you get the +2 as well. So, I mean, this is really nice. It's strange they didn't just choose to make this unit a 6-cost 7 might unit. However, I guess it does make sense, right? Because whenever this unit is not attacking, they're just 5 might, so it's easier to hit them with spells and abilities and things like that. So, okay, I guess I get it. It took me a second to process, like, why would they do that? But, okay, it does make sense after all. Very cool stuff here. I think this is a very strong unit. Nothing crazy. It's not going to, like, break the game, obviously, but this seems like a very solid unit to have here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have Gentleman's Duel. This is a 6-cost spell, action speed. Give a friendly unit +3 might this turn. Then choose an enemy unit. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. Wow, okay, that's cool. Okay, that's really cool. So again, give a friendly unit +3 might this turn, then choose an enemy unit. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. So in other words, you're going to be able to buff up your unit and then attack into your opponent's unit. Now, they're not quite attacking. They're having a gentleman's duel, right? And they're just going to compare who has the bigger might, and the person who has more might wins. Okay, very, very cool effect here. Very cool spell. And I do like this one quite a bit. And it's just removal. This is pretty much just hard removal for the most part. There might be a few ways to get around it, of course. But hey, you're paying 6, and now you're buffing your unit by 3. And that is give a friendly unit +3 might for this turn. And then they're going to deal damage to each other. And then you can attack afterwards. And notice it says choose an enemy unit. It doesn't say at a specific location. So you can choose a unit anywhere. Really like this card. This has quite a bit of potential. This might just be a really good card here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have Honed Master Yi. This is a 7-cost 6 might champion unit with ganking and I enter ready. Okay, so guys, remember, this is obviously meant for the green and orange Master Yi Legend, this Wuju Bladesman here. And it has, while a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. So if we can just take over a battlefield with this character here, or excuse me, with this unit, and they're alone, well, now you're defending with 8 might. So it ends up being a 7-cost 8 might unit on defense, and it has ganking. So as long as you can just take a battlefield with this unit, it's going to be very hard for your opponent to take it back, right? unless they have some type of removal, obviously, but that's, you know, that's just how the game goes. But if they're trying to just attack in, this is an 8 might unit for 7. That seems really good, and it has ganking, so any turn afterwards, after this unit gets ready again, you're just going to be able to go from there. So really, really good stuff here. Okay, let's go and move on to the next one. Next up, we have Stubborn Annie. This is a 4-cost 3 might champion unit with, when you play me, return a spell from your trash to your hand. Okay, purple has all the trash recursion, right? So as long as we have some decent spells to get back out of the trash, this card could be very, very strong. Because anytime you have a unit in any kind of trading card game, so think about it, guys, whenever you play a unit from your hand, you're losing a card from your hand. Like, yes, you're developing something along the way, but your hand size is going down, so you have less cards to play out for the next turn, obviously, right? You're going down in hand size, you're starting to run out of resources. However, with a card like this, with Annie, when you play me, return a spell from your trash to your hand. So think about what that does. You're playing this card out for 4. Okay, so I just went -1 to my hand. Okay, but I just got a card back from my trash and went +1 to my hand, and I broke even. So you're still developing your board while not going down, you know, while not going negative in hand size for the turn. So this card's actually potentially very powerful, but it does require some setup. You need some cards in your trash to get out of the trash in order to get the full advantage from playing this unit out. Because it is just a 4-cost 3 might unit. It is a little bit understat. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next up we have Flash. This is a 2-cost spell, reaction speed, with move up to 2 friendly units to base. Okay, move up to 2 friendly units to base. Now that is very specific. This is probably meant to be more of a defensive reaction, right? So, okay, things did not go the way I wanted at this battlefield. Okay, no problem. I'm going to pay 2. There's no recycle cost. There's no power cost. It's just an energy cost. So I'm just going to pay 2. I'm going to pull 2 friendly units back to base. We're going to, you know, we're going to live to fight another day. We're going to retreat for now and live to fight another day. Not too terrible. I don't hate this card. I do wish it had a little bit more utility. Maybe I wish it, you know, said something like move up to 2 friendly units to a base or from a base or something like that, or like to a battlefield or to base, where you could do either or. But I understand for balance purposes, they wanted to make it where you could just protect your units real quick and go from there. Either way, solid card. Let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have Blast of Power. This is a 6-cost spell, action speed, kill a unit at a battlefield. Okay, this spell is not playing any games. It's just saying, you know what? Whatever your best unit is at that battlefield, I'm just going to pay 6, and that card's gone. We're just going to straight up kill a unit at a battlefield. It's out of the way now. Moving on. Big fan of this card here. And for anyone who might be thinking like, well, isn't this a little bit too expensive, like compared to something like Vengeance, like what we saw in yellow? Well, remember, guys, Vengeance was 4 cost, and you had to recycle 2 runes to pull that off. And I will say, I think Vengeance could just kill a unit anywhere, whereas this can only kill a unit at a battlefield. But remember, we're not having to recycle 2 runes. We only have to recycle 1. And yes, it does cost 2 more energy. However, this is action speed. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think Vengeance was not action speed. I think it was just normal speed. So there are some perks to playing this, especially if your opponent has some kind of combat tricks. They're trying to buff up a specific unit. Okay, well, in response, I'm just going to pay 6 and just deal with that right away. So I do like this card quite a bit. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have Commander Garen. This is a 6-cost 5 might champion unit with other friendly units have +1 might here. Okay, so wherever Garen's going, that's where the units will get the +1 might. Yeah, I think this card's fine. It's definitely on theme with the whole, you know, Garen package, where you're just trying to get as many units on the board as possible to start cashing in on your Legends effect, to get that spell, you know, the, what was it called? The signature spell, Decisive Strike, you know, to get as much advantage as you can from having more and more units on the field, amassing like this small army of units, right? So if you can, like, think of it like this, guys. If you just have 2 extra units attacking in with Garen, well, you're getting +2 might there, right? So this ends up being like a 6-cost 7 might unit in that case. Now, I understand it gives the units +1 might, not Garen, but still thinking about things in terms of like value. If you can just attack with 2 other units with Garen, it's like you paid for a 6-cost 7 might unit. You guys see what I'm saying there? I know that was a little bit clumsy. Hopefully you understood what I was saying. But the more units you can amass behind Garen, the better. And the stronger the attacks are going to be, and the more value you're going to get from a unit like this. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have Lux Crown Guard. This is a 4-cost, 2-might champion unit. Okay, there better be a pretty decent effect that comes along with this, guys. 4 cost for only 2 might. Let's see what it does. Okay, tap and add 2. Use only to play spells. Okay, very cool. So this goes nicely with the with the Legends effect, of course, where we were supposed to, what was it? We have to play out a spell that costs 5 or more. Yeah, so when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, you're going to be able to draw a card. Okay, so all of a sudden, Final Spark doesn't seem as bad, right? Because if I can have down this Lux Crown Guard, tap this unit here, and then I can add 2 energy. I think the way to say it is we add 2 energy to our rune pool. And so we're going to be able to add 2 energy to our rune pool, and now all of a sudden, this Final Spark only costs 6, and it's going to deal 8 to a unit, and we draw a card from our leader's effect, or excuse me, from our Legend's effect or ability. See, now that's not too bad all of a sudden. And that goes perfectly on curve. Okay, very nice, Riot. Very well thought out there. So here's what I was trying to say. Say we're going first, right? Turn 1, we do whatever. Turn 2, we're on 4 resources, right? We play this out for 4, we pass the turn. Next turn, when we set all of our cards as active and we channel for the turn, we're going up to 6 runes, right? Well, now we can tap our Lux, adding 2 runes to the, adding 2 energy to the rune pool, and then we can tap the remaining runes for the turn, and we can play out Final Spark, getting rid of their unit they played last turn, and drawing a card with our Legends effect. Okay. Not bad. Not too bad. I actually like that quite a bit. And let me see with the wording here. Okay, it does not actually reduce the cost of the spell, which is very relevant, right? Because the Legend effect says when you play a spell that costs 5 or more. So it's actually very relevant to know that you're just adding 2 resources floating for the turn. You're not actually reducing the cost of a spell, even though you can think of it that way, but it's better than that. Because when you're tapping this, you're adding 2 energy for the turn that you can only use to play for spells or to play on spells, which is really, really good with our leader effects. So in other words, if you're playing out like a 5-cost spell for the turn and you want to use this effect, you're not reducing it down to a 3-cost spell. It's still a 5-cost spell. You're just getting an extra 2 energy to use for the turn. So that's really nice. I know that was a little bit clumsy, guys. Bear with me. Hopefully that made sense. Either way, really good stuff here. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Recruit the Vanguard. This is a 6-cost spell with action speed and play 4 1-might recruit unit tokens. Okay, we finally get a way to flood the board a little bit. I was starting to wonder. We only had 2 cards left. I was really starting to wonder, are they going to give any support in this starter kit for Garen? Ways to flood the board. And Recruit the Vanguard, definitely good for that. Now, one thing about this is I wonder if you're attacking into a battlefield. Notice what it says here. This is an action speed spell that has play on your turn or in showdowns. And it says play 4 1-might recruit unit tokens. They can be played to your base or to battlefields you control. Specifically battlefields you control other than your base. And if you're attacking in, I don't think you technically control the battlefield. So unless I'm misunderstanding this, guys, and if you guys know, please say something in the comment section below. But it seems like you won't be able to attack in with your Garen. Like, say you just, all right, let's use an example real quick, right? Say you're attacking in with Commander Garen. So you played him last turn, so you went from 6 runes down to 5. You're up to 7, right? So you attack in with Garen at a battlefield for the turn. You don't own it, right? You didn't control it. You're attacking into your opponent's battlefield. Okay, and if that's the case, will I be able to use my Recruit the Vanguard to play a bunch of to play 4 1-might recruit unit tokens there? Because the way it's worded here, it says they can be played to your base or to battlefields you control. And since the battlefield's contested and I'm the attacker, I don't think I control it yet, right? Am I understanding that correctly? Again, sorry guys, I don't know all this just yet. I'm still learning quite a bit. But it would be really unfortunate if that's not the case, because then it would work perfectly with Garen Might of Demacia. So that way, when you conquer, if you have 4 or more units at the battlefield, you can draw 2 cards. It seems like it was intended to work that way, right? Where you play out Garen, and then next turn you attack in with Garen, and you recruit the Vanguard. Okay, and then you're attacking in with him. Because these recruit unit tokens, they are going to enter into play rested, right? Because they follow the same rules as any other unit when they come into play. They should enter into play rested, and if that's the case, well, then I can't even, play out Garen and then attack into a battlefield and use these these 4 1-might recruit unit tokens. I don't know. And if that is the case, guys, if I can't attack in and use this to put units there, it's almost like then they should have called it reinforce the Vanguard. Because there's no reason for it to have that action speed if it cannot be used while attacking. Again, sorry, guys, I know that was all over the place, but if you know, please tell me in the comment section below. So again, let me just state the question one more time. If I'm attacking in to a battlefield that I do not control, right? I'm attacking into a battlefield my opponent controls. Will I be able to use this recruit the Vanguard while I'm there? Like, let's say I attack in with the 6-might Garen we were just talking about. Will I be able to pay 6 and recruit these unit tokens at that battlefield? Because it says play 4 1-might recruit unit tokens. They can be played to your base or to battlefields you control. And we don't technically control that battlefield, I don't think, since we're attacking into it. I think the defender still technically owns the battlefield, right? Anyway, because if that is the case, it doesn't make much sense why this card was even printed, right? Because you're recruiting the Vanguard, but you can't even attack in with this. The action speed almost doesn't matter unless it's specifically defensive, in which case, instead of calling it recruit the Vanguard, maybe they should have called it reinforce the Vanguard. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too nitpicky with it. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comment section below. All right, last one here, guys. We got one more card to go over. We got Vanguard Attendant. This is a 6-cost 5-might unit with I enter ready. Okay, so you're getting a 6-cost unit here with 5 might. They're going to enter into into your base or wherever you play them out ready, and they're going to be ready to go. So really good stuff here. Kind of weird. I almost feel like this should have been more of like maybe a red or orange type of color effect. But hey, we'll take it. I mean, you're paying 6. So you're paying 6 and you're recycling a rune to do this. So this is basically a 5-cost 5-might unit with the accelerate that you have to pay. That's the way that I see this card. Do you guys see it the same way? Maybe I'm crazy. Either way, this card's completely fine. Good stuff here. Right, guys, that's about it. This Proving Ground set seems really, really cool. All of, they were able to squeeze in enough support for every one of their legends for this to probably be a pretty fun experience here, guys. And you're going to be able to have, the way that they did this, you have red, purple, Dark Child, Annie. That's probably going to be more of a combo deck where you're burning stuff up and then getting stuff back out of your trash, blasting stuff on battlefields with Tibbers and going in like that. You have, so for your more aggressive player, you have the Annie selection. For your more mid-range players, you have your Wuju Bladesman Master Yi deck. For the control players, you have Lux. And then for your more, maybe more mid-range with, your Board Flood decks with Garen. So that's very cool the way that they did this. I will say, I think they have a little bit of something for everyone. And maybe that's another way to look at it. While Master Yi and Garen are both probably meant to be more of the mid-range feel, Master Yi is going to be more combo focused, whereas Garen is going to be more board flood focused. Hopefully that made sense. All right, I'm done, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And really starting to enjoy this game, guys. The more I look into it, the more games I get under my belt, the more I'm enjoying Riftbound. So I hope y'all are enjoying it as much as me. We got more content to come in the future. Don't worry. I think the next thing we're going to mess around with is something like a tier list or something like that. We'll see. I do want to put more games out there in the future as well. All right, I'm done. Hope y'all enjoyed. Till next time, peace.